Hey everyone, it's your buddy and pal Karnik, Star Wars Armada Explained. We're going to be looking at Gauntlet fighters today. I wanted to look at something that you don't really see on the table all that often. But you know what? I love how they look. I kind of love the idea behind them. Let's dive right in to the Gauntlet fighters. So the Mandalorian Gauntlet fighters are an Empire Squadron. So we see here we've got two cards for them. We've got the generic and we have Gar Saxon. So the generic Mandalorian Gauntlet fighter, you see there's no bullet point in front of their name or anything like that. It means you can bring as many of them as you have squadron points for, which again you can take 134 points in the squadrons in a standard 400 point game. So the Gauntlet fighters, in the yellow box, you'll see that their movement speed is up to, or distance 1 to 4, so they can move up to distance 4. Next, it has their hull value, which is really high, 7 hull for the squadron. Their anti-squadron dice is 2 blue die and 1 red die, and their anti-ship ornament is 2 blue die. This card costs 20 points, or the squadron costs 20 points, I should say. So 20 points for something you can go speed for, 7 hull, but again, their dice ornament, what are you paying so much for, especially when, sure, it's got high hull, but their ornament is something to be desired. You're paying for assault and rogue pretty much. And what is assault and rogue? That's their keywords. Now, rogue is a keyword you can move and attack during the squadron phase. Remember, in Armada, you have the command phase, ship phase, squadron phase, and status phase. So if squadrons are activated and pushed by ships, that's during the ship phase. If for any reason that a squadron is not activated, typically in the squadron phase, they can move or attack, but not do both. Rogue specifically calls out that a squadron with rogue can move and attack in the squadron phase. Now, it can still be activated with a squadron command in the ship phase and move just like a normal squadron, but it's just saying there for clarification, hey, if I'm not activated by a squadron command in the squadron phase, I can move and attack, or move or attack, or any combination thereof. Some people originally thought, oh, you have to move and then you can attack. Well, no, that's ridiculous. You can do it in any order. You can attack and then move. You could choose not to attack and move. You could attack and then not move, any combination thereof that you can think of. But let's look at assault. Assault is the reason why, if you're bringing Gauntlet fighters, this is why you have them. Assault. While attacking a ship, you may spend 1 die with a hit icon. If you do, the defender gains 1 raid token of your choice. So this introduced the mechanic of raid to Armada when these squadrons came out. And what's raid, you ask? Well, we'll get to that in just 1 second. So again, for the Gauntlet fighters, when they're throwing their anti-squadron die, they are throwing 2 blue die and a red die, just to give the example here. In this situation, you just saw, look, they did no damage. I spent 20 points on a squadron with no reroll ability, and I did no damage. I mean, yes, that's the case for any squadrons. It just really hurts when you have 20 points and it just did nothing. Let's try again. Okay, so we got, 2 damage there, but again, the red die is the thing that holds them back, because there's only 3 sides on a red die out of 8 where they can do damage, and it's just, you really can't rely on a red die in a squadron fight. It's either, it's just not very good. And then for anti-ship attacks, again, they're throwing 2 blue die. Now remember, they're not bomber, so only hits count. So on a blue die, there's only 4 sides that show hits. The other 2 are 2 accuracies, 2 critical icons, which do absolutely nothing for the gauntlet. So you have essentially a 50-50 chance of doing 0 to 2 damage with the 2 blue die, which excuse me, which that's not awful. But again, for 20 points, you're paying a lot for maybe 2 damage, maybe 0 damage. So again, if you're bringing them, you're not wanting to bring like a bunch of them. By no means should you be rocking like 4 or 5 of these guys. You typically only ever really need 1 or 2. And again, the reason why you bring them is you want to bring them for raid. Now, raid with their assault keyword. So if I fly up to this enemy ship, for example, I'm attacking it at distance 1. I'm going to throw my 2 blue anti-ship die. And in here I got double criticals, which means congratulations, I do nothing. I can't even trigger his special ability. Let's try again. Okay, now we've got the one hit. Now, the timing on this is while attacking a ship, you can spend one die with a hit icon. If you do, the defender gains one raid token of your choice. So the timing is before you move on to the spend defense token step or anything like that. You say, hey, I'm attacking. This is a modified dice effect. I'm going to spend this hit, which means you are removing it from the die pool. And now I'm placing a raid token of my choice on your ship. What does that mean? A raid token matches one of the 4 commands that are in Armada. Remember, you have Concentrate Fire, you have Squadron, you have Repair, and you have Navigation. When you assign a matching raid token, you are saying, I'm assigning, for example, a raid token of Navigation to your ship. So now your ship has a raid navigation token on it. What this does is essentially, in a nutshell, it prevents you from resolving that command. That sounds really strong, except it has a lot of counterplay, and it's not nearly as great as you think, because a ship can only have one raid token of each type, meaning that you can only have, one of Squadron, one of Navigation, one of Concentrate Fire, and one of Repair. You can't, for example, stack multiples on a ship so that they kind of have to chew through that Repair before they can actually resolve the command. And I understand why they did that, because you don't want just a bunch of these to just fly up to one ship and then all of a sudden it's got, 10 raid tokens on it and there's nothing it can do. Now, I do want to point out before I move on more into what raid is and what that does, just to make sure I'm covering with these squadrons. So remember, it says you can spend one die with a hit icon. So for example, if I did throw double hits, you can only spend one of them to assign one raid token. You could not spend both to assign 2 raid tokens, because again, that's not what the keyword says you can do. It just says you may spend one die with one hit icon. So you can only do it once per attack. But if you do roll the coveted 2 hits, again, you can assign one raid token and then you still do 1 damage. Except in some situations, you kind of just want to do the 2 damage and not worry about assigning a raid token. But okay, so that is for that. So then for a ship, let's go ahead and throw a raid token on it. Let's say I put that navigation raid token on there. It's kind of small. We'll zoom in a little bit. You can see it on there. So what is raid? While a ship has a raid token, it cannot resolve the command matching that raid token. When a ship with a raid token reveals a command dial, it may discard that dial to discard all of its raid tokens, or it may discard a command token to discard that matching raid token. A ship cannot have more than 1 raid token of each type. Again, kind of covered some of that stuff. So again, if he's got a raid token on there, on his next turn when he reveals, for example, a navigation command dial, if he has a raid token, he cannot resolve the navigation command unless he, 1, discards that command token to then clear off all raid tokens, which includes if you just have 1, or again, if you have 4, when you discard a command dial, it clears all of them. If you only discard it specifically for that purpose, not due to another reason. Or if you do, for example, let's say that this ship already had like a navigation command token on it, and you reveal a navigation command dial, what you can do to get rid of that navigation raid token, you discard the navigation token there, and you clear the matching raid token. Now, if you have the navigation dial, you can now still resolve that navigation dial because you've cleared the raid token with your navigation command token. So you can kind of see there, like, raid has potential, except, there's a lot of lists that generate tokens. Most people are bringing CommsNet Flotilla, so what do? It's like, oh, you raided me for this 1 token. Well, I'm just going to pass along the command token you just raided for, and then when that ship activates, it clears that command. So raid has a lot of counterplay to it, which is why you don't see raid very often. Are there definitely some circumstances and situations where raid can be beneficial and work? Yes, absolutely. Like I said, you typically only ever want 1 or 2 of these fighters because, again, super expensive, but they're not great at dogfighting and they're not great at bombing. So you really don't want a whole lot of them. Typically, when you're going to bring one, you're going to bring Gar Saxon. And why is that? So Gar Saxon is the unique squadron for these guys. Again, he's got a little dot or bullet point in front of his name, signifies he is unique. You can have one of him in your fleet. He shares all the same stats as a gauntlet, except for his anti-ship attack armament. It is a blue and a black die. Again, he still has assault. He still has rogue. He only costs 23 points. So you're spending 3 points more. He has a single brace, so you're getting a brace ability. And with blue-black, you're getting a slightly better chance at being able to get the raid token to go up. What's his special ability? While an enemy squadron with intel or relay at distance 1 activates, it suffers 1 damage. So his ability, very niche, but in a lot of situations, most people are bringing intel or relay. You actually can get a little bit of a benefit out of him. Except, guess what? If you want to utilize his card ability, it means you got to be engaged with squadrons and fighting squadrons, and then you're not fighting ships, which is what you want him to do because it's assault. But then if he has assault and he's fighting ships, then you can't use his card ability, which only works on squadrons that you don't want to fight. It's just kind of like you're working at opposite ends of the spectrum here. You really can't win with him no matter what he does. I don't know. It's just kind of like, why not bring Bosk? But with Gar, again, he's got that blue and that black. So you throw the blue, you throw that black. Hey, you got that hit. You can spend that. Now, some questions some people have, well, can you spend the hit crit? Can you spend a hit crit to activate assault? Yes, absolutely. Because again, it just says you need to spend 1 die with a hit icon. It's not specifically saying it has to be a single hit. Is there a hit icon on that facing? Yes, you can spend it. The critical that doesn't come into play, that doesn't matter for that die. It has a hit on that facing. You can spend it and get in and assign the raid token. Again, you can only assign 1. So again, if you did roll, a hit blue and a hit crit, you could spend just 1 of those to deal damage. In Gar Saxon's ability, let me pull out somebody with intel here. Guess I should have got that down. Let's see here. Jan Ors. Let's do her. So she's got intel, and then let's get out the VCX that has relay. There we are. Perfect. So how does this card ability work? Again, very straightforward, very simple. So distance 1 is this black circle here. Distance 2 is red. You have 3, 4, 5. So his ability is when a squadron activates, they're going to suffer 1 damage. So this damage, it's not an attack, so you can't scatter it. You can't avoid it. You can't, for example, Biggs move it, because again, not an attack. It's just a bubble around him. Where do you have intel, or do you have relay as a keyword on your squadron? When you activate, yes, you're going to take 1 damage. You can't get around it. So he's at distance 1 of Jan Ors, who has intel, and he's at distance 1 of this VCX, which has the relay keywords. All right, we'll say he flew up and he attacked Jan Ors. He activated to do this. He throws the 1 red, the 2 blue, and hey, so she is going to take a damage. So you know what? She's going to exhaust. Take the 1. Boom. Now, when she goes to activate, as soon as she activates, she automatically suffers 1 damage. Drops her from 3 health to 2 health. So that is where you can definitely see some use on VCXs, obviously with as high hull as they have. Like, oh, you did 1 damage to me? That's cute. I go from 8 to 7 hull. Like, you didn't really do a whole lot. I could see this being a little bit more useful against, like, lambdas. Because lambdas only have, 5 hull, 6 hull? I think they have 6 hull. Where are the lambdas here? Yeah, they've got 6 holes. But still, it's still a bit of beef to chew through. Essentially, Gar is great at going after, Jan Ors or Hawks or the Jump Masters and Dengar. Because, again, they have, 4 health. And especially with Dengar, because of the scatter, any auto damage you can get in on that is going to be very helpful. Or even if, for example, Gar Saxon had rolled a 3 damage, which is typically what you want to roll. So if she had brace, she would have dropped her from 4 to 2, and then she activates, and now she's on 1 health. Or what the best case scenario is that you use Gar and you use another squadron to drop her from 4 to 1 health, and now you don't even need to worry about attacking her anymore, because as soon as she activates, she's just going to automatically explode from activating because of Gar Saxon. So that is some use you can see from, but again, you can kind of see why you don't see Mandalorian Gauntlet fighters terribly too often. Just because they just kind of really suck at anti-squadron. They still can't bomb very well because they want to sign out raid tokens, and even then, you're not always guaranteed to hand out raid tokens. I brought Gar Saxon one time, and in 4 attacks that he made, I didn't get a single hit to trigger his ability. You would think with a blue-black that would be... And obviously, that's a huge outlier case, but... I that happened. I put him in the box. I have not brought him back out of the box since then. Like, I just was so disappointed in just that. So, but of course, you may find your own use for him. Like I said, it's sometimes there are list types where, hey, bringing Gar Saxon could be a case where you could want him, because he is speed 4. 7 hull, it's still, he's not an awful squadron just to throw in the middle of the ball and not die, but again, it's just kind of like, why not Bosk? So, anyway, of course, if you feel like I missed anything or if I got anything wrong, please be sure to point it out. Let me know about it. Or give me some comments for the next squadron you'd like me to go over. I'm just kind of picking stuff out of a hat. Most times, this was a request. I put it out like, hey, what should I do? And somebody's like, do Gauntlet Squadrons. I'm like, okay, so that's what I did. Well, you guys are all great. I hope you're enjoying these videos. And, again, if you see anything that is wrong, correct me on it. I do appreciate those comments. Maybe point out to me where you've had success with Gauntlet fighters, because I haven't had any success with them. Let me know about it. Share it with the community. And, hey, I'll catch you guys all next time.